Well, welcome to day 3 of 5 days hacking your brain. Uh, Thank you for the replay viewers who will be watching this. And if you got here right at 11 and I wasn't here, I apologize. I had a family member who needed something this morning, and on my way back, I was trying to, actually, let me just close this down here so it doesn't interrupt us. On my way back, I was trying to get into the app so that I could let you know that I was going to be here, and it just wasn't working. But we're here now, so let me just get Facebook up here on the phone so I can see any comments coming in. I think, maybe not, I don't know. The phone doesn't seem to want to be working for me right now. Anyway, all right, so we'll forget that. You know what? Life doesn't always go the way we plan. And the topic for today is addiction. So when I talk about addiction, you might think of like chemical addiction or shopping addictions, and that's some of it, but we can also be addicted to our emotions. So before we get into that a little bit, let's go just do a recap of day 1. I shared with you how powerful our brain is and how some gentlemen were able to change their physiological state and not even need assistance that they had needed just a few days earlier by changing their environment, the things they talked about, and the things that they thought about. And then yesterday we talked about the lies that we've been told. And then we continue to tell ourselves. Well, those lies can also be the foundation of our addictions. And as I was driving back here to do this, I was thinking of people, if you know people who their life is like always in a crisis, or it just seems like one bad thing after another happens to them. Well, some of that is they might actually be creating, not on a conscious level, it's not something that they're consciously trying to do, but through a variety of things, they are actually creating it. One of the ways is through language, and we're going to be talking about that more. I believe that's tomorrow's topic. But let me just explain the addiction thing. And when I heard this, I just went, oh. And this is where I want to encourage you that a lot of times when things aren't going the way we want, and we're dealing with issues, our tendency is to go and blame ourselves and say, oh, there's something wrong with us, or we're not doing something. And I don't want to negate that that's a possibility, but it could be this addiction that's happening. And we do have power to change it once we can recognize it, but we first have to recognize it. Same thing as our the lies that we've been told yesterday. We have to start to begin to recognize these things. So let me explain this addiction thing to you. What happens is that every emotion we have, happiness, sorrow, joy, excited, afraid, depression, any of these emotions that we have, every time we feel these emotions, a certain chemical chain is released by our brain, and each one is different. Each emotion, the chemical chain is different. But when we experience that same emotion over and over again, it creates like a groove in a road. So if you've ever been on a road where they've got those deep ruts in it, it's kind of hard for you to travel outside those ruts. Your tires just want to go there. Hey, William, thanks for joining us. And the same thing happens in our brain, that these chemicals, they will create grooves in our brain. Well, then our brain wants to fill it with that same chemical. So it starts looking for situations and ways to fulfill that. So a lot of times this is kind of like that program running in the background, and we aren't even aware of it. So through work with a life coach that I have, I learned that I was addicted to meh, just kind of being just kind of not good, not bad, just kind of mediocre, right? And not having that momentum to be able to move things forward. Well, that's an addiction. that was a chemical addiction that I had developed over the years, whether it started back when I was a child or as an adult. In reality, that doesn't matter so much. And for some people, maybe looking back is something that they want to do, but I don't know that it's always necessary, except for maybe to recognize it and be able to give it a label so that you can recognize it for the future. Once we recognize that we have the addiction, then once we're feeling that emotion, now we have the power to change it. And there's a lot of ways we can change it. Like I said earlier in this broadcast, is that language is one of the ways that we can change it. Another way we can change it is with our physiology, so how we hold ourselves. One of the things that I noticed for myself is that I tended to sit like this. That just kind of brings everything out. So just by sitting up, putting the shoulders back and sitting tall, that can change our physiology to change these things. And just like yesterday when we were talking about the lies that we've been told, once we recognize it, it's a matter of capturing it. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that I like that talks about catching every thought captive. So our emotions in some ways are thoughts, right? Because we're giving it that label. We get to decide what label it is. So we can also turn it around once we recognize it. And that's my encouragement to you, is that we can be free from these different addictions as we start recognizing what it is, what emotions we are addicted to. Then we can start changing it and being more intentional in the emotion that we want to create. And we can create that with the labels that we give it, the things that we focus on, the people we surround ourselves with, the environments that we are in. So I don't know if William, you're still here. Does any of that resonate with you? Have you experienced any of that? And if you're watching the replay, I would love to hear what things that you, emotions that you may be addicted to. I know one that's been pointed out to me recently is overwhelm. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about in a class that I have coming up starting in September is something called your reticular activating system. But it basically, without going into too much detail, it looks for whatever you tell it to look for. So if you tell yourself you're overwhelmed, it's going to look for that. But that's an emotion and a feeling as well, a state, kind of a state of being that we can check. Too often, right, William? Absolutely. So I'd love to help you in any way that I can. There is a link in the description here so that you can get notifications when I go live. I have 2 more days of this. This is just a sampling of some of what's going to be covered in the class starting in September called Renewing Your Mind. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know. I can actually put a link in the description here for access to that if that's something that you would like to do. It's going to be 12 weeks, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth and cover a lot more things as it is related to our brain, and you know, just how amazing it is in the ways that we actually have more control than we think we do. And we don't have to live as victims. We don't have to live at the effect of everything that's going on in the world. We do have control over, like I said, a whole lot more than we think we do. And so I would love to share with you the things that I've learned along on my journey and help with that. And then as a community, we'll be able to help each other as well. So again, just share what emotions, if you're willing, which emotions that you feel like you're dealing with in terms of addiction, and let me know. And then tomorrow we're going to be doing language, and that's huge. Language is so huge. It affects the things that we've talked about already, the lies, where some of that power comes from to change things like I talked about on the first day, and these addictions as well. So as we learn to pick different labels and choose different things, we can have victory and live in victory and power and take advantage of this amazing machine that we've been given, that our Creator gave to us. So any comments, put them below. Click the link up in the right hand corner to get notifications for the last 2 of these challenges. And if you have any questions about the class coming up, let me know, and I will put a link to that in the descriptions. And so now, go and start recognizing what emotions that you might be addicted to, because the first step is recognizing it, and then we can take control over it. So I will see you tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Bye for now.